Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be looking at the career of Hasib Ahsan.
Oh yeah, Hasib Ahsan.
Someone who's really making waves in using technology to tackle global issues.
Yeah, he's someone who has been a leading figure in digital development for over 14 years.
Wow.
That's basically using tech to drive positive social change.
Yeah, we've got a ton of info to work with here. His profile from the IT University of Copenhagen.
Right.
Project Details Awards. He's won a lot to unpack to really understand how he's achieved what he has.
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting is the breadth of his experience.
Right. He didn't just appear in a Copenhagen think tank fully formed.
Right.
Where did this all begin?
Well, Hasib Ahsan's journey started on the ground in Bangladesh, working directly with communities, facing some tough challenges.
So that hands-on experience led him all the way to becoming a researcher at the IT University of Copenhagen.
Yeah.
That's quite a leap.
It is. And what's fascinating is that along the way, he's worked with governments, NGOs, the private sector. He hasn't just been in the ivory tower.
Right, so he's got this mix of academic knowledge and real-world experience.
Exactly.
That must have been invaluable in shaping his approach, which I know involves a lot of human-centered design.
Exactly. It's not about imposing tech solutions from the outside.
Right.
It's about really understanding the needs and challenges of the people you're trying to help before you even start building anything.
Which makes a lot of sense. You can't solve a problem you don't understand. So let's get into some specifics. What kind of digital development projects are we talking about?
He's led some really diverse projects. For example, he's used tech to improve water and sanitation services, basic necessities that are often overlooked.
Yeah, clean water and sanitation are crucial, but not exactly the first thing that pops to mind when you think high-tech.
Right, but that's what's so interesting about Hasib Ahsan's work, finding those unexpected applications.
Okay.
Another area he's focused on is digital agriculture.
Okay. What does that look like in practice? I'm picturing robot farmers, but I suspect it's a bit more nuanced.
Think more along the lines of empowering farmers with real-time information.
Okay.
So imagine farmers in rural areas getting up-to-date weather forecasts, best practices for crop management, even market prices, all delivered right to their mobile phones.
So they can make more informed decisions, maybe even increase their yields.
Exactly, and that translates directly to better incomes and improved livelihoods for those farmers.
Makes sense.
He's also done really impactful work in digital health, specifically health initiatives.
mHealth meaning healthcare delivered through mobile devices. I've heard a bit about that, but haven't dug in too deeply.
It's an incredibly dynamic field. Think about using mobile phones for things like disease surveillance, remote patient monitoring, even providing health education. And Hasib Ahsan has been particularly successful applying this within refugee communities.
Oh, wow.
Both Syrian refugees in Jordan and Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh.
Wow.
They face unique healthcare challenges, and mobile tech can be a lifeline.
It's amazing how something as ubiquitous as a mobile phone can be such a powerful tool for good. But it's not just about the tech itself, right? He's won awards for his policy work as well.
Absolutely. One of the things that makes him so effective is that he understands that technology is only part of the solution. You need good policy and strategic thinking to ensure that technology is used effectively and sustainably.
So he's not just handing out the smartphones, he's working at a higher level to create an environment where those tools can flourish.
Right. For example, he contributed to the World Bank's Climate-Smart Agriculture Investment Plan for Bangladesh.
Wow.
And he was an expert member of Unigo's Smart Agribusiness Strategy. He understands that to create lasting change, you need both grassroots action and high-level strategy.
And speaking of achievements, the guy has a whole shelf full of awards, right?
Oh, yeah.
The United Nations World Summit Award, the Standard Chartered Bank Agro Award. Pretty impressive stuff, but I'm more interested in the why behind these accolades. What made these projects so successful?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? In one case, his team was working on a mobile livestock health platform in a remote area, a really innovative application of tech. But they realized there was a huge cultural barrier.
Oh, really?
The community associated mobile phones with frivolous things, not serious matters like animal care.
So how do they overcome that? You can't exactly force people to use tech they're skeptical of.
They got creative. They partnered with local veterinarians who were already trusted in the community and had them introduce and explain the app. Suddenly, it wasn't just a piece of technology. It was a tool endorsed by someone they respected.
That's a brilliant example of how understanding the human element is just as important as the technical aspect.
It is.
But let's be honest, 200,000 people impacted across South Asia and Southeast Asia. That's impressive no matter how you slice it. What's his secret?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. He's obviously got deep technical expertise. He understands the nuts and bolts of the technology.
But that's clearly not the whole story. There are plenty of tech wizards out there who aren't exactly known for their humanitarian work.
And that's where the second piece comes in. He has a genuine passion for social impact. He's not just interested in building cool gadgets. He wants to use technology to make a real difference in people's lives.
Okay, so deep expertise plus a genuine desire to make the world a better place. What else is in the mix?
He's also a master at navigating different worlds. He's comfortable talking to farmers in the field one day and presenting to government officials the next.
Right.
He can bridge the gap between the tech world and the real-world problems that need solving.
So he's kind of like a translator, helping each side understand the other.
Exactly. And maybe most importantly, he doesn't see technology as a magic bullet. He understands that it's a tool, and the key is finding the right tool for the job and using it in a way that empowers people, not just replaces them.
That's a crucial point. Technology shouldn't be about creating dependency. It should be about amplifying human potential. So I'm starting to get a sense of what makes Hasib Ahsan tick. But I think the real question for our listeners is,
how does this apply to them, even if they're not working in digital development?
Exactly. We'll dive into that after a web break.
Yeah, I think Hasib Ahsan's career really highlights that no matter what your field is, you can leverage technology to address challenges you're passionate about.
So even if I'm not building apps or writing code, there's still something to learn from his approach.
Absolutely. It's about that mindset of finding creative solutions. Think about the problems you see in your own world, in your community, your workplace, even your personal life. Could a digital solution make a difference?
I like that. It's a call to action, not just a biography. So we've talked about health and digital agriculture in a broad sense, but I'm curious about the actual nuts and bolts. What specific tools and platforms has he used?
Well, it varies depending on the project and the context, but I can give you some examples. In his work with farmers, he's used mobile apps that provide real-time weather information, pest and disease alerts, even market price updates, things that can help farmers make those day-to-day decisions that impact their livelihoods.
So putting crucial information directly into their hands, empowering them to make more informed choices.
Exactly. And one of the key things is that these apps are designed to be user-friendly, even for people with limited literacy skills. For example, in one project, they replaced text-heavy menus with icons and visuals, making it much easier for farmers to navigate and understand the information.
That makes sense. It's about tailoring the technology to the users, not the other way around. You mentioned he's also used SMS-based systems. That seems smart, especially in areas with limited internet access.
It's all about meeting people where they are. In some regions, SMS is more reliable than internet, so using that familiar technology was key to reaching those farmers. He even had success with a system that sent out voice messages in local dialects, providing updates and advice in a way that was accessible to everyone.
That attention to detail, the understanding of the local context, that's what makes the difference between a good idea and a truly impactful solution. And it sounds like that same approach applies to his work in the health sector.
Absolutely. He's used mobile platforms for everything from disease surveillance to remote patient monitoring. And in his work with refugee communities, he's been particularly innovative in addressing the unique challenges they face.
You mentioned earlier that refugee populations often face barriers to healthcare. Could you elaborate on that a bit?
Of course. Imagine being displaced from your home landing in a new country where you may not speak the language, understand the culture, or even trust the formal healthcare system. It's a daunting situation.
So how do you even begin to provide healthcare in that context? It seems like a logistical and cultural minefield.
It is, and that's why Hasib Ahsan's approach has been so effective. He recognized that building trust was paramount. So instead of relying solely on external healthcare providers, he focused on training and empowering community health workers from within the refugee communities. These are people who understand the language, the culture, the concerns. They became the bridge between the refugees and the healthcare system, using mobile devices to provide basic healthcare services and education.
That's brilliant. Using technology to amplify existing social structures, not replace them. It's not just about the tech, it's about the human connection.
Precisely. And it's not just about physical health either. He's also used mobile platforms to connect refugees with mental health services, recognizing the psychological toll of displacement and trauma, something that's often overlooked.
That holistic approach is so important. So it seems like a recurring theme in Hasib Ahsan's work is this adaptability, this willingness to tailor the technology to the specific context.
He's a firm believer in meeting people where they are, understanding their needs, their limitations, their cultural context. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Which makes me wonder, are there any downsides to this hyper-focused approach? It seems incredibly resource-intensive, maybe even difficult to scale up.
That's a great question, and it's one that's often debated in the development world. There's always a tension between tailoring solutions to specific contexts and creating something that can be replicated and scaled up to reach a wider audience. And it's true, Hasib Ahsan's work is often highly contextualized.
But he still managed to achieve significant scale, impacting hundreds of thousands of people. So how does he balance those competing priorities?
It's a delicate dance. He's very strategic about which aspects of a project are context-specific and which can be generalized. For example, the basic framework of a mobile health platform might be adaptable to different regions, but the content and the way it's delivered need to be tailored to the local language, culture, and healthcare needs. It's about finding those core principles that can be replicated while still allowing for flexibility and adaptation.
That makes sense. It's about finding the sweet spot between standardization and customization. But let's shift gears for a moment. We've talked a lot about the positive impacts of Hasib Ahsan's work, but are there any potential downsides or risks to consider? Technology isn't always a force for good, after all.
That's a critical point. We need to be aware of the potential pitfalls. One concern is the digital divide. By focusing on tech solutions, are we inadvertently widening the gap between those who have access to technology and those who don't?
So people without internet access, smartphones, computers, they're being left behind in this digital revolution.
Exactly. And that's something Hasib Ahsan is very conscious of. He emphasizes the importance of digital inclusion, making sure that these initiatives don't just benefit those who are already connected.
So it's not enough to just build a fancy app. You have to make sure it's accessible to the people who need it most.
Right, and that might mean providing training subsidizing devices or even using older technologies like SMS in areas with limited internet connectivity. Another concern is data privacy and security.
That's a big one, especially in the age of data breaches and online surveillance. How do you ensure that sensitive information, health records, financial data is protected in these digital development projects?
It's essential to have strong safeguards in place. Things like encryption-secure data storage and clear consent protocols. And it's not just about the technical measures, it's about building trust with the communities you're working with, being transparent about how data is collected, used, and protected.
So it's not just about building the technology, it's about building trust and ensuring that people feel safe and empowered in this new digital landscape. And it sounds like that requires a multifaceted approach involving not just technologists, but also ethicists, policymakers, community leaders, a whole ecosystem of stakeholders.
Absolutely. And a collaborative spirit is something we see throughout Hasib Ahsan's work. He understands that tackling complex challenges requires bringing together diverse perspectives and expertise.
It's about building bridges, not silos. Which brings us back to that earlier point. Even if you're not a tech expert, there's a lot to learn from his approach. It's about thinking creatively, understanding the human element, and collaborating with others to find solutions.
And it's about recognizing that technology is a tool, not a magic bullet. It's how we use it that matters most. We'll explore that further after a quick break.
It feels like a lot of responsibility rests on the shoulders of folks like Hasib Ahsan. You know, he's out there building these systems, influencing policy.
Right.
Is that too much pressure for one person?
It's a valid concern, but I think what Hasib Ahsan's career shows us is that it doesn't have to be a solo mission.
He's not some lone wolf coder working in a basement, right?
Not at all. Collaboration is woven into everything he does, from working with local communities to partnering with governments and international organizations. He understands that complex problems require collective effort.
So it's less about putting all our faith in a few tech gurus.
Yeah.
And more about finding ways to contribute within our own spheres of influence.
Exactly. You don't have to be a coding genius to make a difference. Maybe you're a teacher who can integrate digital literacy into your curriculum.
Right.
Or a community organizer who can leverage online tools to connect people and mobilize resources.
Or even just someone who's willing to ask tough questions about the ethical implications of technology to hold those in power accountable.
Those conversations are crucial. Technology is evolving so rapidly, we need those diverse voices at the table, ensuring it's used for good.
Speaking of rapid evolution, it's kind of mind-blowing that Hasib Ahsan has accomplished all of this in just over a decade.
It is remarkable, isn't it? He's only been in this field for about 14 years, and he's already made such a profound impact. It makes you wonder what the next 14 years will hold.
Yeah, I'm getting some serious future is now vibes, and I think that's a perfect takeaway for our listeners, that sense of possibility.
That anyone, regardless of their background or expertise, can contribute to building a better future.
It's about finding those intersections between your passions and the problems you want to solve.
Huh.
And not being afraid to experiment, to push boundaries, to challenge the status quo.
Hasib Ahsan's story shows that sometimes the most unexpected ideas lead to the most impactful solutions. He dared to combine his passion for social change with his technical skills, and he's created a blueprint for others to follow.
Yeah, it's not about waiting for permission or for someone else to fix the world. It's about taking ownership, being proactive, and using whatever tools are at your disposal to make a difference.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one inspiring us with your work in the years to come.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, keep diving deep, keep exploring, keep questioning. The world needs your idea, your energy, your willingness to make things better.
Until next time, keep those deep dives going.
See you out there.